Well, those of you that have watched the Ranger Nick segment over the years probably can imagine that I'm a people person. I like to be around other folks, whether that's a barbecue or maybe in a classroom at the University of Georgia. Being around folks is something I love, but I would never thought that going to a garden would be a place where I could meet up with other individuals and some of those benefits. And I'm going to tell you about a lady that knows a thing or two about gardening and the benefits of a garden like this that can provide for the community. And that's Christina Gardner. Christina, so good to meet you and be with you today.
Yes, sir. Good to see you.
Hey, you got what we were looking at going out here, down in Southwest Georgia, being able to see the benefits of this. Aside from the food aspect of this, obviously getting some of these yummy veggies into the community's hands, what's something that came from this that you think is a benefit beyond just food? Something you have seen in the community that this garden has benefited?
Well, the most incredible part of the garden that I have seen, aside from the food being brought to the community, is the fact that it brought the community together. We have so many different aspects that are working together, all towards that one common goal of increasing the food capacity here. But the schools are working together, so the charter school and the high school. We've got the county commissioner involved, we've got the community center involved, the city of Leary, so everybody is coming together to work towards this common goal.
And what's so cool is this is the catalyst for this. This is the bridger to involve some of these stakeholders, and Extension's got that going on. You know, I'm a big fan, I always push it. And you mentioned stakeholder groups, and I have to my left a very influential stakeholder in the community, Miss Brenda. So good to be with you today.
Good to be with you.
Well, I appreciate you being out here on this hot day in South Georgia. So as a county commissioner, what is something that you think is so special about this garden, which is, by the way, right behind the Calhoun County Extension office right here in Georgia? What's so special about this place, so influential about this for you as a community leader?
Well, I wanted to give back to the neighborhood. I wanted to give to the older people who can't get out and get fresh vegetables. So this is my way. I raise my garden, and when they get ready, I gather them, I bring them to town, share them with the people, and then those that are shut in, I take them door to door.
You bring those veggies, you bring this stuff to them as a leader in the community.
Yes.
I mean, that small town benefits, beautiful to be able to see that. And you said your garden, you have your own?
Yes, I do.
So you, at your house or at your office?
I have two at my house, and I have one at the office out there that I take and I share, because that's what it's all about, sharing.
Well, and this has started here. Now, from a benefit from the community side, Christina mentioned the idea of youth, and Luke is joining us over here. Luke, good to be with you today.
Glad to be here. Thanks for coming.
From the youth side, I love working with kids. What's a benefit for kids out here in the garden that you've seen? We've talked about the older adults. What about the youth?
Yeah, you know, we always go into the school and talk about agriculture and gardening and the benefits, but this garden actually gave us an opportunity to provide an outdoor classroom. So the students, we come out and they help us plant, help us harvest. We've talked about fertility and, you know, just about agriculture in general and benefits.
And just imagine, they're not doing it on a phone, they're doing it for real. I want to talk next about how this all got going. And if you're watching at home wondering, how can I get this started? You're about to learn right now. So the people side of this, so obvious. I'm talking with our friends before, but Christina, you were a catalyst for getting these 6 raised beds going. And from what I understand, this is something through the gracious support of Extension and grant work, I understand, that got going. Is that right?
Yeah, so this started in the very beginning through a grant from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. Calhoun County was unfortunately selected for their high obesity rates. Okay. So as a way to kind of combat that, we put together a coalition team. And that coalition came up with some things that they thought could identify and help with those high obesity rates. Yeah, and so a garden was one of those things that they thought could bring more fresh produce into the community.
And they thought that, not thinking that maybe a farmer's market would do it, but why not a farmer's market? I mean, that's another way to get people out. Why a garden?
Right, so a farmer's market, from Extension perspective, that was something that seemed like a great idea. Okay. But when the coalition came together and those stakeholders started talking, they wanted the produce to come from here. They didn't want it to come from an outside source into the community. They wanted it to come from the breads that they raised and their gardens. So it was interesting that, you know, that's what Extension was kind of leaning towards and going towards, but we definitely wanted to make sure that it was community based and those stakeholders were really buying into what would help the community.
And that's something that a lot of people at home may not realize. Extension is so needs-based. You're going and you're listening to folks, figuring out this is what they would like and appreciate, and you're making it happen. I'm looking around and I'm thinking this has been here for a decade. Has it, or
No,
what? No?
Actually we started the grant process in 2015,
Okay.
but this garden was not established until 2017. So this is only about 2 years worth of gardens, and this is only one of 6 sites. So
Interesting.
this started as our teaching garden. We kind of implemented it to do a trial and error. We would try things here, especially like the drip irrigation system and stuff. We tried that in our garden first before we asked community members to try it there.
Because you want to squash out anything that's going to go wrong. I knew that's what you were thinking, Christina, right?
Exactly. We want to make sure it's top notch.
All right. So what I want to talk about last of the folks at home is some pieces of advice that you and others might have if you want to get something like this going in your neck of the woods. So Christina, we're going to go there next. Well, look at the size of those sunflowers. Look at the size of the tomato plants. I was under the impression that that kind of growth was 10 years in the making. And instead learned from Christina it was only 2. What you're looking at right there in front of you is perhaps the reason for such great growth, great yield. Luke, tell us about this special soil mixture that you've got.
Nick, we like to call this magic soil. It's equal parts topsoil, cow compost, and mushroom compost. And this soil has allowed us to yield over 100 pounds per squash plant.
Holy, and not just yield, 100 pounds for a squash plant is incredible. What about varieties? You growing anything special out there?
Yeah, the soil has actually gave us the opportunity to grow other varieties and experiment with other varieties. One of those is the watermelon radish we cut into earlier. Yeah. It's been real cool, and we've been real successful with that too.
So this is neat. So this is this idea of this trial garden right here at the Calhoun County Extension Office. Now, Christina, come back over to you here. Folks at home that are wondering about doing this in their county at their local extension office, what pieces of advice beyond the special magic soil that Luke talked about, what piece of advice would you offer to the folks at home to get this going on where they are?
Yeah, absolutely. The soil is definitely something that's important, but just as equally as important is where we place those beds and the design of the beds. In our trial garden here, we built our beds just a little bit too big, so now trying to work in them is a little bit difficult. So now, from learning from that mistake, we're able to advise people to make them a little smaller, a little more manageable. So when we started this, we weren't afraid to make those mistakes. That's what we were here for. So Extension is here to provide that advice and give you some recommendations as far as like what Luke was talking about with different varieties that you can grow. Things that kind of complement each other in the garden, as well as your pollinators.
Yeah, and you're just not doing this yourself. Others are doing this too, volunteers.
Yeah, so we have volunteers all throughout the community. We're here for that advice, but then the volunteers actually do the work, and they take ownership of their individual gardens.
Incredible. We're always tooting the extension horn, and I can't thank you enough for joining us. Thank you. And Luke, thank you so much for being with us. Absolutely. Y'all know what to do at home. When you're online looking up your local extension office and the potential you could have to grow a garden there, hop over to the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page and check out what Ray and Kenny and the others have got going on. Hop over to the Ranger Nick Facebook page and see what I've got going on. And until next time, for the Farm Monitor, as we always say, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for joining us this month, and we'll look forward to seeing you when we get back together again next time. See ya.